Oh, this one. We're going to start talking about the plasma membrane. So this is section 2 of chapter 7. So we're looking at that plasma membrane, right? That's something that we've established. Every cell has it. Eukaryotic, prokaryotic, they both got it. And so what does it do? It helps it maintain a cell's homeostasis. That's a word we've seen before, right? Helps it maintain its proper state, its balance. Again, like homeostasis is making sure it's trying to correct itself to get to a certain level of not existent, but like it's trying to homeostasis in this case is the cell trying to make sure that it has enough fluid and that it's it's the right temperature and stuff. It's trying to get to the right levels. So we're looking at primarily how does this thing work? We've established that things can go in and out of it, just like your hand in a sink of water. You wash your dishes too long, it comes up shriveled. Water exited your cells, but you still have skin cells. The skin cells were not destroyed. So how does that work? And how do these things, proteins, carbs, cholesterols, fats, work in the plasma membrane? So I'm going to eventually zoom in on this picture a lot. So here's how it works. So we have our plasma membrane here. So how does it maintain this balance, this homeostasis? One of the things responsible for this is that plasma membrane. So the plasma membrane is for homeostasis. That's all you really need to know for that. And all we really need to know is that what is the plasma membrane? The plasma membrane is the thing that forms a thin, flexible boundary between a cell and its environment. If you take a cell, you put it in a thing of water, it's just floating there, right? The environment is the water. So it keeps the cell, the insides of the cell, safe. It's the skin. It's the skin of a cell, right? Your skin keeps your organs and stuff intact, right? Keeps your blood in, keeps your vessels flowing. It's the same thing for a cell. So plasma membrane is skin, is all you need to know about that. Oops. So how does it work? We use something here called selective permeability, which basically means it's going to let some stuff pass through and it's going to let other stuff not pass through. I'm going to blow up this image here in a second. So selective permeability is, as the name is, select. It's selecting what can go through or not. Think of it like a security guard. You get to go in, but this person does not. So it controls, we're going to learn how it controls this stuff, but it controls of how, when, and how much of these things enter or leave. Every living thing produces waste. You need to expel waste, right? In humans, we pee, we sweat, we poop it out. In cells, it excretes it out. So, for example, some of the things that it takes in, glucose, sugar, energy. You eat food. So it's taken in glucose. It's taken in oxygen. What's it getting rid of? It's getting rid of carbon dioxide. It's getting rid of the waste. It's getting rid of and taking in water as well. So we use it for a whole bunch of different things. So the big thing there is knowing what selective permeability is, where it chooses what to take in. And if you're looking at what does it need? It needs food, water, and air. We need food, water, and air. It's the exact same as you. So it's your skin, and it takes in and expels the same stuff as you. Okay, so is everyone done writing that? Okay, so this is just that blown up image. Again, same stuff you take, right? Air, food, water. You also expel water. You pee it out, you sweat it out. You also expel carbon dioxide. And of course, we have our waste. So it's the exact same thing. And that's all done through the plasma membrane. So how does that work? It's like a net, right? So it's like a net. And sometimes you can make nets bigger. You can make nets smaller. Or sometimes you can cut holes in nets as well. So plasma membranes operate fairly similar. So how does this stuff work? So the plasma membrane is composed of a couple things. One of them is it's called a phospholipid bilayer. In case you don't know what a phospholipid is, a lipid is a fat. It's a fatty layer. And so what we do is, if you're looking here at this image here, again, I will blow this image up, but if you're looking at this blue stuff here, those are the fats. Does anyone ever, if you ever put oil in water, what happens to the oil? Floats to the top, right? It's more buoyant then. So it's the same thing here. We have the water all in the middle of this, and we have a fatty layer on top and a fatty layer on the bottom. That's how it keeps the inside of it safe. It keeps it separate from the outside environment. So this fatty layer has, it's called polar heads, and they face the outside. So they face the outside again. I will blow this up. They face the outside, and we have non-polar tails facing the inside. So this lets that membrane keep those environments separate. So you have a layer of fat above, and you have a layer of fat below. And then in between is fluid. Okay, so again, we have our fatty layers on the outside and the inside, and then we have the stuff in between. So there's other stuff in here if you're taking a look. So I'm just going to go in here. So there's a couple other things here if you're able to take a look here. So first off, those polar heads, right? That's that blue stuff there. Those are your fats. And then there's those tails that go in between. So this is what links them together. They're kind of attached along that line there. So there's other things in here, right? So the first thing, we see a carbohydrate chain. We see this cholesterol. We see a transport protein. So we're going to look into what all of this stuff is. So first off, our components here. So the plasma membrane contains cholesterol, proteins, and carbohydrates. So it has other stuff in it. So those proteins are called receptors. They transmit signals to the inside of the cell. So those proteins serve as a structure support for the membrane. And how does stuff actually move? It moves through transport proteins. So the transport proteins are like highways. So they send in those signals. Think about it like a turn signal on a car, and then they move it. Okay, so I think we're almost done if I recall. So zooming in on those phospholipid bilayers. So there's lots of complex words, right? Those are the ones with the heads and the tails, those blue things there. So this has two of them combined. There's another one down here as well to form a full layer. So these heads are attracted to the water, and the acids are water repellent. Right? So just like how water goes on top of oil, they separate themselves. You get the exact same thing here, and that's how that operates. Okay. So that's a phospholipid bilayer. And then there's some other stuff in there, right? So we saw that there was cholesterol in here. Those are those little dots. That just prevents the stuff from sticking together. Not super important to know that. I wouldn't worry too much about the role of cholesterol, to be completely honest with you. The main thing we really care about is how does it allow stuff to go through. Okay. We're gonna end up coming into that later. Again, not too much we kind of need to know here about like the carbs and stuff. We really just care about the transport proteins right now. So here's the other thing. So we have something called the fluid mosaic model. So basically, if you think about it, it's kind of like an ocean, right? So those phospholipids, those blue things, those are a kind of a sea. In between them is where that sea is. So this fluid mosaic model just kind of shows how this has properties of it's almost like an ocean, if that makes sense. Okay. So we're going to start going into a couple different questions here. So these are 4 questions. Sorry, our 5 questions. So I will give you a minute for that. You want to put about 2 lines in between. Should be lots. You can skip this middle one. Don't need to worry about that. There's only 4 questions. Okay, so just kind of going through this stuff here. We'll try and power through it. We'll go for a break after this. So how does the inside of a cell remain separate from its environment? You don't need to give a complex answer here. Again, try not to use your notes. What does a cell use to keep itself separate from its environment? How do you stop the insides of your body from spilling out everywhere? Skin. What's a cell's skin? Plasma membrane. Yep. Wait. Oh. Sorry, I had the wrong one here. There we go. This one. This is question 2. This is question 2. Sorry, I went ahead one. This is the second question. So it's the plasma membrane, right? You don't even need to worry about this other stuff. It's just the plasma membrane is really what it is. The plasma membrane is the only real important part there, right? Just like you use your skin, it uses its skin. Um, yes, the plasma membrane. And then, sorry, we'll go to question 1 after this, the one that we were on previously. So question 1, how does a plasma membrane help maintain homeostasis in it? It just controls what enters and exits, right? It picks and chooses. It has that selective permeability. It can select what it wants to go through. Okay, we're not gonna do that one. So question 4. So identify the molecules in the plasma membrane that provide the membrane structure, cell identity, and membrane fluidity. So what are what are some of the things in it? You don't even know what they're used for. What are some things that are in our plasma membrane? What do we all see in here? Cholesterol. We see cholesterol. We see a carbohydrate. We see proteins. You know, we see these fats, phospholipid bilayers. So it's all of those things, right? So it's the phospholipids, the proteins, the carbs, the cholesterols. It's the membrane fluidity, the fact that it's almost like an ocean. It's very flexible. That way it prevents itself from breaking. It's able to bend with pressures. Okay, and then final one. So what if we add more cholesterol to our plasma membrane? What could that potentially do? Again, what happens if I add more cholesterol to this plasma membrane? Here we go. Yeah, this part here. So cholesterol prevents those fatty acid tails from sticking together. So cholesterol contributes to the fluidity of the membrane. So we know that cholesterol then it's just going to make it more fluid. It's going to increase that fluidity. It's a necessary ingredient. Okay, so once you guys are done with that, why don't we take our break here a couple minutes early? We'll come back at 2:05